What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to a new week of sports and the MLB PrizePicks Picks Show. We've got baseball today. Zach is going to be on tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday, lining him up with all of the WNBA slates. So you'll get me today, Wednesday, and then Saturday. We'll talk PGA a lot on Wednesday, and then baseball both today, Saturday. And maybe Saturday will be a little bit of both. But today, we just have baseball, and I'm focused primarily on Underdog. So if you haven't already, get yourself on Underdog. Promo code FTN, $250 free. I think it's becoming more important than ever to be on both. You see, especially Underdog is fantastic for PGA, so you're going to want that. And then also, PrizePicks, I think, is getting not necessarily tougher for baseball, but I think Underdog is getting easier for baseball, primarily because they're starting to give us more and more multipliers. So instead of just taking a number down when it's been bet a bunch, they give a multiplier. They either bring it down to 0.9x or 0.8x, which means the other side gets boosted to 1.1x, 1.2x. We'll see one of those that we're going after here today. So let's jump into what the PrizePicks pick tool, what the Pick'em tool is telling us, and then apply that to Underdog today. The main reason for that is I only have, at this point, 4 picks I really like. I already gave out 3 different 3-pick plays for Underdog in the Pick'em Discord channel. Both of those, by the way, were over 7x for just a 3-pick play. One multiplier, 1.2x multiplier. So again, that's why it is really important to be on both. I think some of those have either gone off the board or were moved. So we'll go check those out. We can run through all of them. And then maybe we'll be able to make a 6-pick play out of that. Let's start here. We've got Tanner Bibby at the very top of the tool. We'll see he's projected for 30.5 fantasy points on both Underdog and PrizePicks. We've got him projected at 37.16. That's a 72, almost a 72% hit rate. I also love the fact on the strikeouts, projected at 5.5 on PrizePicks. We have him projected at 6.83 on Underdog. He was listed earlier at 0.9x on Underdog at 5.5. And let's see if that's still there. So yeah, it is still there, 0.9x, 4.5 strikeouts, 0.7x, and now available 6.5 strikeouts at 1.25x. I even think there's probably going to be a 7.5 number at some point that might be like 2x. We saw some of those yesterday, but let's see what that 6.5 number looks like at 1.25x. Might even like that more than the fantasy points. In fact, you know what? Let me double check that the fantasy points for him is still there. Okay, it is still there at 30.5 on Underdog. So let's see. 6.5, 55.9% is the number that we get here. Let me blow this up for you guys so you can see it a little bit better. So 55.9% with a 1.25x multiplier. That is really, really strong. Might have to mix that one in as well. But we're going to start with just the 30.5 fantasy points higher than on Tanner Bibby. From there, we can go, let's see, the next one that I really liked earlier, Aaron Nola, 5.5 strikeouts is, let's see. Oh, it's even better now. Okay. 5.5 is 0.75x for the higher, 1.25x lower. We're going to end up talking a lot about Nola here. You can see we've got him projected at 4.91 in the tool. His projection on PrizePicks is still 6. If we move this to 5.5 and go lower, we see 62.8% on that. Now, how could we possibly be at 62.8% for something that's 1.25x? Well, let's go to the Filth leaderboard, and let's take a look at Nola. You guys can now see this. So the knuckle curve is still really good. A 148 Filth. That means it's a 48% better pitch than the average pitch in baseball. You can see a really strong CSW. So he's generating either a called strike or a swinging strike 32% of the time that he throws that curveball. That's great. The problem, the four seam, only 23.7%. Historically, this has been a much better pitch. It's still a 105 Filth. Good. But that used to be a better pitch. And what's particularly concerning is the 91.9 mile an hour velocity. that number has been closer to 93 throughout his career with the four-seam fastball. So it's not spinning as much. The velocity is down. It's not getting the called strikes and swinging strikes. Excuse the landline. I'm at my grandparents' house. And that's it's become an inside joke at FTN. So it's happened to me more than just this time. I'll let it end the ringing before I talk more about Nola. Hopefully someone picks it up soon. There we go. Okay. So the problem is the fastball has not been as effective. The knuckle curve is the only good pitch. It's a shame that changeup wasn't better. Only a 75 filth, still using 11% of the time. It's also, he's throwing the cutter more than he ever has, and that pitch has been downright atrocious. So I don't know why the cutter usage has come up the way that he has. Maybe he's trying to get people off of the fastball because he knows it's a little bit vulnerable right now. You can see he's giving up too many home runs, over a 3% home run rate with all 4 of his non-curveball pitches. So it's been a little bit of a struggle in that regard, but we actually I think we're going to tweet about this today. Nola's strikeout rate is at a career low 22.5% right now, and yet we even have it projected below that. So it's usually around 33, usually around 30%. It's down around 26.5% last year, now 22.5% this year. The CSW has also come down. It used to live in the 30s, was down to 29 last year, now down to 26 something this year. So clearly something's going on. But remember, that 21% number that we have for him as a baseline right now, we are not projecting the rest of the season. We're not saying that for the rest of the season, he's only going to be a 21.8% strikeout guy, whatever the exact rate is that we have him projected at with the baseline right now. What we're saying is in the next start, in the very next start, the baseline strikeout rate for him would be under 22%. So even though this is a good matchup, essentially what we're saying is the stuff that we've seen from him of late, it's not typical Aaron Nola. He's gotten hit hard, and we're saying that hasn't been an accident. It's because his pitches haven't been as effective as they usually are. That sort of thing doesn't usually just flip on a dime, right? That's especially this time of year. That could be arm fatigue. It wouldn't be that surprising if he ended up on the 10-day IL with shoulder soreness or something along those lines, maybe a blister. Who the heck knows? Point is, we don't like the stuff that we're seeing, so we are very reactionary to that in a way that the market can't quite keep up with. So I really do like this number, less than 5.5 strikeouts. I'm actually, I was toying with the idea of going to 4.5, but the thing is, we're already getting a multiplier here, and it's something that we have at like 63%. So I think I just want the likelihood of this hitting. And going to 6.5 strikeouts, going lower than 6.5, gets us 0.75x. If that was like 0.9x instead, then maybe I'd just go with that and get something that was like 75% likely to hit, something along those lines. So I think this is the start for us. The next one that I want to take a look at is going to be Brian Wu. So far we've got Tanner Bibby and Aaron Nola. And now let's take a look. Brian Wu, we've got projected at 4.13 strikeouts. His line is 5. We've got the less than here at 61.7%. And let's also take a look. How often would this lose? So if we switch this to the more than, let's see, 61.7% likely to win. Of course, it can tie. How likely is it to lose? Only 19.5% to lose. So I really like this less than play as well. And in fact, if you look at Brian Wu, his game log, the thing that stands out to me, listen to the pitch counts. This year, he's thrown 62, 79, 77, 70, 66, 85, and 64 pitches. He has faced 15, 20, 20, 24, 19, 21, and 17 batters. Those are extremely low numbers. He's been really effective, but it's also not like he's K-ing a ton of guys. His last 4 starts, he struck out 1, 6, 2, and 1. His other games, 7, 5, and 3. He's a very good pitcher, but the leash is concerning. I don't think the leash is suddenly going to become massive. Like, I think the most likely scenario here, if he's stretched out, is going to be 22 batters faced, 80, 85 pitches, something along those lines. So the leash is still very much there. Clearly being careful with him. He missed a start earlier in June as well. I think he only missed you know what? He might have missed 2 starts. There were 13 days in between starts there. So I still think they're going to be careful with him. And look at those numbers. Like those are really, really low. So I definitely like this one as well, which gives us 3. Let's see where Woo is on Underdog right now. Still at the 5.0. So you can see here, here's the 3-pick play. We're getting 7.5x on this now because Nola has gone to 1.25x. I really wish that they would show this a little bit better. Tanner Bibby, higher than 30.5 fantasy points. Nola, lower than 5.5 strikeouts for 1.25x. Brian Woo, lower than 5.0 strikeouts. And then the third one, let's go back to the tool, or the fourth, I should say. Let's go back to the tool. And it was also in the strikeout department, but I saw that this moved. It was Carson Spears, higher than 4.5 strikeouts, which we have at 65.8%. There's a little bit of concern there in the sense that he's only had one like full start, where sometimes you're going to get when a guy has had limited work, it allows him to go 100% with every pitch, moves into the starter's role. Suddenly he can't go 100% on every pitch, but this is still a pretty low number. And I was shocked at how high the pitch count was. He went over 100 pitches in his last start. So that is very much encouraging. The problem is he's now at 0.9x on 4.5. I saw this move to 5 earlier on Underdog, and they brought it back down to 4.5, but made it 0.9x. Maybe the way to go is to go 1.25x on 5.5. Let's take a look. I will say I don't like the 0.9x here. Let's see what let's see what 5.5 looks like. Only 43.7. That's not good enough for 1.25x. So I think we're going to have to leave him off of the board here. So we've got this 3-pick play. So right here, this is much easier to see, by the way. Tanner Bibby. Oh, you know what? Let's do both of those. So, in fact, since we can't get Spears mixed in, let's instead go to Bibby, and let's turn this 7.5x. Let's go with these 6.5 strikeouts. I'm going to share this tab. So 6.5 strikeouts at 1.25x. Now we get 9.37x for just a 3-pick play. That's pretty great. We're going to place that one right there. You can see on the screen, Aaron Nola, lower, 5.5 strikeouts. Brian Woo, lower, 5.0 strikeouts. Tanner Bibby, higher, 6.5 strikeouts. 9.37x. Pretty damn good for a 3-pick play. Okay, let's see what else we got. I wanted to try and get a 4-pick play into a 6-pick play on the show. I don't think we're going to be able to do that, especially since we lost that 4th pick. So now we'd have to find 3 more. Maybe we'll be able to do that throughout the rest of the day as more fantasy point picks roll in. Let's see. Let's go through that because when I was looking earlier, there weren't that many fantasy point picks. So let's see if we got more of them now. I'm going to go back to the tool. We're going to look at the fantasy points. So if you don't like the strikeout number, you can also go lower on the fantasy points for Nola. I would rather go to the strikeout department because the Phillies are damn good. They're likely to beat the Tigers. So if Nola pitches well, we could see him get the win. We could see, 6 innings, 3 runs, 5 strikeouts, but you get the win, you get the quality start, and suddenly you're hitting that fantasy point number. So I'd rather play the strikeouts. But what I will say is if the strikeout number changes and becomes, more unfavorable for us, more favorable for Nola, then we would actually maybe want to change and go to the fantasy points number. But for now, I really, really like that 1.25x on the strikeout number. I'd also say, by the way, part of that is Nola's biggest issue. Like when people talk about, okay, what is Nola's problem? Why isn't he quite as good as he used to be? I don't think people are saying, well, he's not getting the strikeouts. What they're saying is he gives up too many home runs. So maybe what we're seeing in the strikeout numbers and the CSW is an active effort from Nola to create bad contact instead of swinging strikes, trying to sacrifice some strikeouts and swings and misses to get more weak batted balls, to get fewer barreled balls against him. Again, you saw over a 3% home run rate on 4 of his 5 pitches. So if he could get those down to like 2.5%, it would absolutely be worth the lower strikeout number. So maybe that's what we're seeing, which another reason to go to the strikeouts instead of the fantasy points, because maybe what what Nola executing now looks like is different than what it used to be. Nola executing still wouldn't get him to the strikeout number, but it would get him to the fantasy points number. So again, I like the strikeout less than more than the fantasy point less than. Schwellenbach, projected at 24 on PrizePicks. We've got him for 29.4 fantasy points. That's 69.6%. So if you need another one on PrizePicks, that's a really good one. Let's see if that is available on Underdog. It is not. He's got 4.5 strikeouts. We only have him projected for 4.9. I think that was like 53%, something like that. So that's not strong enough. If his fantasy points get added, we can do that. So again, maybe we'll end up with some 6-pick plays either on Underdog or PrizePicks. But if we do, those will be posted in the Pick'em Discord. By the way, before we sign off, we are working on a giveaway idea that relates to getting a very, very early head start on NFL PrizePicks and Underdog content. We'll be reaching out to you guys to help us kind of brainstorm what can we do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis to help make NFL PrizePicks and NFL Underdog, this Pick'em, that much more fun. And we'll be doing some kind of giveaway along with that. So keep your eyes out for that. Only way you're going to find that is the show. Also be able to find it on Twitter, but come to the show for it. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. Again, thank you very much, Scratchmaster. Scratchmaster, I don't know if that's lottery tickets or you're saying you're a scratch golfer, but if you're a scratch golfer, you keep up the good work, and we'll see you for some PGA picks on Wednesday. Zach will be here tomorrow. He'll probably have some baseball picks, but he'll certainly be hammering away at those WNBA picks because he's been absolutely smashing them. So we'll catch you next time. Zach tomorrow, myself again Wednesday. See you then.